Hey folks, JD here, and today I thought as we're already in May, we'd look at the top 5 quadcopters that we've flown so far this year. So let's start off with number 5. So, in number 5 we have the JJRC H97. Really a basic quadcopter, taken after the SEMA X5C1. Really quite flimsy plastic, but at the same time can really take a bit of a beating. I've taken this out about 2 or 3 times. I've had one quite nasty fall with it, and it's actually cracked a little bit here. But still, as a beginner quadcopter, this really is a fantastic little model. Very light though, so I would say if you are going to take it out, make sure that make sure that there is no wind. Otherwise, this is just going to get taken off. Little camera on the front does produce quite good video, quite good pictures. The camera itself, I would be very careful because it comes off very, very easily. With the camera on, the battery bay isn't very accessible, so you are probably better off in removing the camera before you open the battery bay. That being said, you can still get in there with the camera on there. It's just a little bit more tricky to do so. So, this is number 5. Let's see what's number 4. Okay, so at number 4 we have the JJRC Elfie and E-Sheen's model as well. We're looking at this as one unit, as both of these are exactly the same quadcopters, just with different names and different paint. These are both badged up as selfie quadcopters, although in my experience with flying them, they're not very good at taking selfies because they're not very stable. They are pretty good though as little pocket quadcopters. So if you are thinking of buying one, don't look at it as a selfie copter, as you may be a little bit disappointed, but as an actual pocket quadcopter that you can take with you that folds up really, really small, then it is probably worth it just for that reason. The quality of the camera isn't great with these particular quadcopters, but they do have a couple of saving graces. One of them is that it can be controlled from a smart device, so no big clunky transmitters need to be carried. The second thing is that they have altitude hold, so as soon as you start off they will take up to a particular height and stay there while you just gain control and while you are learning the quadcopters. So those two things alone I think are really good plus points, and it is very unfortunate that the cameras on both of these are terrible resolution, and that the copter itself, in my experience, isn't stable enough to warrant being called a selfie copter. That being said though, as quadcopters they are not bad. Okay, so that was number 4. Let's look at number 3. In at number 3 this year we started looking at the JJRC. This is the H23. This is the quadcopter car, so front steering, back acceleration, so rear wheel drive, as well as obviously being a quadcopter as well. Such a fantastic little device. This is unfortunately the no camera model. There is one though that does have a camera that is slightly more pricey. This comes in at £30, so being very, very cheap, very affordable. It does have to be controlled by a transmitter and not by a smartphone, but in saying that, it's probably the best racing car I've driven in a couple of years, and it's probably one of the better quadcopters of its price range that I have ever flown as well. It is really stable, really quite light, very aerodynamic in its build. All in all, a fantastic little quadcopter that you should be looking at if you are into getting a cheaper quadcopter or a quadcopter come car as well. So that's number 3. Let's look at number 2. In at number 2 we have this guy. This is the JXD515W. This has got a little camera on the bottom that can be removed, 4 ducted vents when it comes to its propellers and propeller guards, very aerodynamic shape to it as well. That is in all an absolutely fantastic quadcopter. Now it is a smaller quadcopter. It's obviously, I wouldn't necessarily call it a nanocopter because it's a little bit bigger than some of the other nanocopters that we've looked at recently, but it's certainly not full size. The camera is pretty good, but above all else with this guy is how stable he is when he flies. He does have altitude hold, but when he takes off he is so incredibly stable. these little ducts and the extra blade on the propellers really does make a difference. The motors are pretty well powered, although you may find in some stronger breezes up to about 4 or 5 miles per hour, you will have to put it into mode 2, into faster mode. But be careful when you do that, because she really does kick up one heck of a speed. From slow to fast, there is really a hell of a difference in that. So this is number 2. Let's look at number 1. So folks, number 1, really in my mind at this particular time, has to be this guy. This is the Skytech TK110HW. And it is just phenomenal. I've flown this twice or 3 times, and it has just blown me away every single time. Right from the start, you have landing sprigs which fold onto the body of the quadcopter. You have the quadcopter arms as well, which totally fold into the quadcopter, meaning that when you fold everything back in, it's such a small footprint that you can take it in pretty much any bag. The downside being is that you have got a transmitter with it, but it is meant to fly from a smartphone as well, although I have not tested that yet. I will be testing that in a little while though. This flies so incredibly well. I mean, before I bought this guy, I'd never even heard of Skytech as a quadcopter manufacturer. Now, this has certainly put them on my radar, and as soon as I see another Skytech drone out there, I'm going to be purchasing it, because all in all, this really is a brilliant, stable copter that has automatic takeoff, automatic landing, altitude hold, that has 2 speed modes, one of them being quite slow, but then the other speed mode, as it says on here, extreme, is so incredibly fast. It's unbelievable. Nice little camera on the front of it as well. Doesn't give you brilliant shots, as I'm sure you're aware with all toy grade quadcopters. They're not the best lenses, but to be honest with you, it's enough to make a little FPV video out of, which in itself isn't too bad at all. But most definitely the main thing for this quadcopter, it is an entire folding quadcopter, down from the landing sprigs to the propeller arms as well. So once again, should not be overlooked. So let's have a little look at them all together. The JJRC H97, the JJRC H23, this is the JXD Invaders 515W, and of course, being counted as one quadcopter because they are both exactly the same, we've got the JJRC Elfie there. So all in all, 5 really good quadcopters that we've looked at the start of the year. This is the top 5 of the first few months of 2017. I'll be doing another top 5 after we've been through another 3 or 4 months, and to look back and see which of those are my favourite ones. A link to all of these review videos that I have done is in the description below, as well as a link to all the places where you can buy them on Amazon as well. Alright then folks, so thanks ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD, you've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hello to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. Thanks ever so much for your support. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.